Now we come to the bond. The definition of bond is same as the definition of financial instruments. Bonds is simply a piece of paper. We can have a bond is a piece of paper in which a number of things are written. The first one is written that the face value, which we call as par value of the bond. Face value, suppose the bond face value is rupees 100, that is written. Then the rate of interest, suppose rate of interest written it is 5%. And then the maturity period. The maturity period, suppose it is 5 years. No doubt, the name and address of the issuer will also be printed on the bond. And sometime the name and address of the holder is also printed, not necessarily. So, if someone purchase this bond, then he will get an interest at the rate of 5%, he will get an income at the rate of 5% for 5 years. So, after the first year, he will get rupees 5 as interest, and after the second year again get rupees 5 as interest. After the third year again he will get rupees 5, and after the fourth year he will again get rupees 5, and after the fifth year he will get rupees 5 plus the principal amount, that is rupees 100. So therefore we see that these rupees 5 that he will receive, these are called as coupons. Coupons. So this bond, since it is for 5 years and if the interest is paid annually, this bond will carry 5 coupons. Each coupon will be of rupees 5 because rate of interest is 5% and the face value of the bond is rupees 100. So each coupon value will be rupees 5. The first coupon will mature after 1 year. The second coupon will mature after 2 years, the third one will after 3 years, fourth one after 4 years, and the fifth one after 5 years. So the rate, this rupees 5 is known as coupon value. The value of the coupon is rupees 5. And the rate at which this coupon is calculated, that is this rate of interest, is known as coupon rate. So coupon rate is same as the rate of interest that is mentioned on the face of the bond. Now these bonds we also call them as coupon bond. Coupon bonds. So coupon bonds are those bonds which carry coupons, and coupons are nothing but the income that you will receive. If suppose the income is paid annually, the income that you will receive every year during the maturity period of the bond, that is what we call as coupon. The value of the coupon will depend on the rate of coupon or coupon rate, and that is nothing but simply the rate of interest mentioned on the bond. So these are called as coupon bonds. But there are other types of bonds where we see we have zero coupon bond. One such is zero coupon bond. Or these bonds are also called as deep discount bond. Deep discount bonds. Zero coupon bonds, as the name itself suggests, that these bonds do not carry any coupon. So we call them as zero coupon bond. And the reason why these are known as deep discount bond, because these bonds are sold on discount, that is at a price which is less than the face value of the bond. For example, if we consider this bond where since it is a zero coupon bond, the rate of interest on this bond will not be mentioned. Only the face value as well as the maturity period will be mentioned. So this bond of rupees 100 whose maturity period is suppose 10 years, 10 years, this will be sold at a discount. Suppose I purchase this bond today at a price that is rupees 90, then it means that rupees 10 is the rate is the interest income that I am willing to accept for holding this bond for 10 years. Purchasing at rupees 90, after maturity I will get rupees 100. So 10 rupees will be the interest income. Now the question is how this is the present value of the bond, and this rupees 100 is the future value of the bond, that is the value of bond after 10 years. Now at what rate this future value should be reduced, discounted, so that we have this present value that is rupees 90. That is what we call as rate of discount. Now since this discounting has to be done over a long period of time, that is 10 years, so we call it as deep discount bond. That is, this is not a question of discounting for 1 year or 2 years. This discounting is going to be over a long period of time, and that's why these bonds are known as deep discount bonds. So these zero coupon bonds or deep discount bonds are always sold on discount. But these are not the only two types of bond. There are several other types of bond. What are these several other types of bond? Let me give you the other types of bonds. The list will not be exhaustive, but we'll try to give as many types of bond as possible. Then we have bearer bond. Bearer bonds are those bonds where the interest is paid to the bearer. That is, it is the name of the holder is not mentioned, that the person who is holding this bond, who is bearing this bond, who is carrying this bond is paid the interest. While there are other type of bonds, we call this as registered bond. Registered bonds are those bonds where the holder's name is registered in the book, and the interest will be paid to the person whose name is figuring in the register. That even if you are holding the bond and if your name is not written in the register or you have not got it transferred, then you will not be paid interest even though you are holding the bond. Then there are inflation index bond. Inflation index bond. Inflation index bond are those bonds where the holder is protected against inflation. Both the principal amount as well as the interest is adjusted according to the consumer price index, so that when the person is holding this inflation index bond, then he is fully protected against inflation. That because we know that when inflation takes place, the value of money go on declining. But here the person will be fully compensated for inflation, so there is no problem. Then we have perpetual bond. Perpetual bonds are those bonds which have no maturity period. So these bonds will never mature. Rather, here every year, if the interest is paid yearly, every year the fixed amount of income will be received by the holder. But these bonds will never mature, having no maturity period. Then we have floating or variable interest rate bond. Floating or variable interest rate bonds are those bonds where the interest rate is not fixed. Usually we see in the case of bond, the rate of interest is fixed and many times it is written on the face of the bond. In case of deep discount bond or zero coupon bond, the rate of interest or rate of discount is decided the moment it is purchased. But there are some bonds where the interest rate are not fixed. The interest rate may be floating, may be variable, and these are known as floating or variable interest rate. Then we have convertible bond. Convertible bonds are those bonds which will get converted into ordinary shares after a period of time, and these bonds are known as convertible bonds. We have junk bond. Junk bonds are high risk bonds. These bonds are highly risky, and that's why these bonds are called as junk bond. Even though these bonds may provide good rate of return, but even then, because of the high risk that these bonds carry, they are known as junk bond. We have serial bond. Serial bonds are those bonds where the principal amount is paid in installments. That is, if suppose there is a bond of rupees 1000 and the period is 10 years, then 100 rupees of this will be paid every year. That is, after first year, you will get the holder will get 100 rupees from the principal amount. Of second year, again rupees 100. So principal amount will not be paid, entire principal amount will not be paid on maturity, rather it will be paid in installments. Mortgage bond. Mortgage bonds are basically the bonds which are created from the home loans, and these are also known as asset-backed securities. So we call them as mortgage bonds. Redeemable bond. Redeemable bonds are those bonds which the issuer issuer purchases at a after a given period of time, that is before maturity. These bonds are known as redeemable because the bonds will, the payment will be made on maturity, but here the issuer may purchase these bonds before maturity, and usually the bonds are purchased on face value and the interest for the period bond is held is also paid. So these are known as. Then we have putable bond. Putable bonds are those bonds where the holder gets the right, not or the option to force the issuer to buy back the bonds. That is, if the holder wants, then the issuer will buy back these bonds, purchase these bonds, and give the principal amount as well as the interest. So this is the option given to the holder of the bond. Then we have deferred interest. Deferred interest bonds. Deferred interest bonds are those bonds where the interest is payment is deferred. That is, for certain year it will not be paid, and when the money is available then it will be paid. So interest will not be paid regularly, rather it will be deferred for certain period, and after that interest will be paid. Then we have guaranteed bond. As the name itself suggests, these bonds are guaranteed bond. That is, here a guarantee is provided here by either the bank or insurance agency to make the payment. So we call it as guaranteed bonds. That is, in case the issuer of the bond fails to make the payment, either interest payment or principal payment, the guarantor will make the payment. So these are some of the types of bonds that we see. There may be other type of bonds as well, like we have war bond, which are issued during the period of war. We also have climate bond. So there can be other types of bond also. We have, for example, municipal bonds issued by the municipal bodies. We call them as municipal bonds. Then there are industries also, they issue the bonds. There are companies who also issue the bonds, and the bonds are known by the name of that company also. So, but basically we see that bonds are, broadly speaking, of two types. One is coupon bond, another is deep discount bond or zero coupon bond. That is, in the case of coupon bond, you will get the coupons and you will get the interest payment paid regularly. But here, in the case of deep discount bond, you purchase the bond at a discount and the face value will be paid on maturity. Other bonds are just variants of these deep discount bond and coupon bonds. We have told you while discussing the financial system that financial intermediaries play a very important role. They operate between the surplus budget unit. So we have surplus budget units and we have deficit budget units. The financial intermediaries operates between the two. Here we have the financial intermediaries and they operate between these two. What they do, that financial intermediaries, they issue their own securities, they issue deposits, they issue bonds, and these are purchased by the surplus budget units. So the securities issued by the financial intermediaries are known as secondary securities. These are not primary securities, these are secondary securities. And then the money that financial intermediaries have collected from the surplus budget units by issuing secondary securities, this money is used for purchasing the primary securities issued by the deficit budget units. Secondary securities and primary securities. We may define what are primary securities and what are secondary securities. Primary securities are issued by the ultimate user of the fund or ultimate borrower. Ultimate borrower is the entity or the individual or the company who is not only borrow the money but also uses it. Financial intermediaries, they also borrow money, but they do not use it. What they do, that they transfer this money to the deficit budget units and earn interest or earn income. So, therefore, these are primary securities. But the securities issued by the financial intermediaries, these are called as secondary securities. So, These securities, the deposits issued by the financial intermediaries are secondary securities, like bonds issued by the financial intermediaries are secondary securities. Similarly, the insurance scheme issued by the financial intermediaries are secondary securities. Similarly, the mutual funds issued by the financial intermediaries are also secondary securities. Even the money issued by central bank is also a secondary security. It will not be a primary security. So primary securities, we see their primary securities are issued by the deficit budget units, and these may be also directly purchased by the surplus budget units. And this transaction takes place in the financial markets. So, the primary securities are issued by the real sector, that is, ultimate user of the fund or ultimate borrower, while secondary securities are issued by those who are not the ultimate user of the fund or they are not the ultimate borrower, but they borrow money only to transfer it to some other party. So therefore, the financial intermediaries, they purchase they have in their portfolio, rather they purchase primary securities issued by the deficit budget units. These primary securities are highly risky, and the secondary securities issued by the financial intermediaries and purchased by the surplus budget units, these are less risky. For example, the loan given by the financial intermediaries, that is bank, are the deposits issued by the financial intermediaries and purchased by the surplus budget units. These deposits are less risky because the surplus budget units know that the money is safe. I'll explain it with the help of an example that will clarify it. Suppose there is a farmer, and the farmer is a deficit budget unit and ultimate user of the fund. The farmer needs crop loan. He knows that there is a surplus budget unit in the city. There is a person who is having surplus in his budget and he has surplus funds. He is the ultimate lender of the fund. So the farmer approached this person and asked him to give the loan and will return. Suppose this is a crop loan and return after 3 months when the crop is ready, and he sell the crop and harvest the crop and sell it, and then he will make the payment. The person living in the city will not give him loan because he says that I don't know you, and moreover your crop may fail, and what will happen? You will not return my loan. But this person living in the city, who is a surplus budget unit and have surplus in his budget, he happily deposit this money with the bank, knowing fully well that the same bank is lending to the farmer whom he has refused to give the loan. So the security issued by the farmer is a primary security because the farmer is the ultimate user of the fund or ultimate borrower. And this surplus, in case of financial intermediaries, the security that surplus budget unit is purchasing from the financial intermediaries, that is a secondary security. So the essence and success of the financial intermediaries is the transformation of these primary securities, which are highly risky, into secondary securities, which are less risky. So this asset transformation is the essence and of the financial intermediaries, or the beauty of the financial intermediaries. This is why the financial intermediaries exist. Now, these financial intermediaries can be classified into two groups. There are two types of financial intermediaries. There are many ways we can classify financial intermediaries, but usually the financial intermediaries are classified as banks and non-banking financial intermediaries. So we have banks and non-banking financial intermediaries. Intermediaries are institutions, whatever you say. So there are financial intermediaries are broadly of two types, banks and non-banking financial intermediaries. In the case of non-banking financial intermediaries, we have mutual funds, we have insurance companies, we also have provident funds, we also have derivatives, pension funds. All these comes under the non-banking financial intermediaries. This is one way of classifying the financial intermediaries. There is another way also classifying the financial intermediaries, where we classify the financial intermediaries as that. For example, we classify them as depository institutions. Depository institutions are banks and other intermediaries who accept deposit from the public and also give loan. So all these deposit taking institutions who accept public deposit and give loan are categorized in this depository institutions. Then we have other type of insurance like insurance companies. Insurance companies, we have already told about these, and then we have third one, security firms are basically security firms are basically the brokers, investment bankers, mutual funds, and other institutions providing investment services are covered in the security firms. Then in the fourth one, we have finance companies. Finance companies. Now these finance companies, they raise money from the public, and that money they made available to the borrowers. And these finance companies usually specialize in a particular type of loan, like house loans. So there are companies who only give house loans, that is for purchasing houses, for purchasing flats, and also for purchasing real estate, that is lands also. So these, then there are other finance companies who specialize in automobile loan, that is they give loan for purchasing car, buses, scooters, motorcycles, etc. Then there are other finance companies who specialize in business equipments, that is they give loan for purchasing business equipments. So this is another way of classifying the financial intermediaries into depository institutions, insurance companies, security firms, and finance companies. This is all. See you in the next class. Thank you.